things from God. I think that's, I know for myself, when I receive something from God, it humbles me because He found me worthy, because He took the time. And it completely humbles me down. So no matter what the pain, no matter what the devil's trying to tell you, no matter how hard he's fighting you to try to stop you to do what you're called to do or to use the gifts in your life, just do it. Because it's guaranteed in the end to be worth it. Jeremiah 29:11, an expected end. I want to know what my expected end is in time. I don't want to rush it, of course, but I want to be able to grow and to become what God would have me to be. And whether a woman, speaking naturally, a woman, whether she has one child or she has many, some women have more kids than others, it's just natural. But whatever, if you ask a woman with one child, was it worth it? You're going to be guaranteed to get a yes. Mothers love their children, fathers love their children. That's a natural thing God put in us to be able to have an undying, everlasting, unconditional love for our kids. And the Lord's the same with us. He has the same with us. And it fulfills a woman's life, especially, I know as a mother, it fulfills your life through your children. When you see them, especially when you're in church and you see them start to talk about God, or you see them sing, or you see them start to do works of the Lord, it's so fulfilling to see that and to know that you've planted a seed in them and it's growing and it's starting to take hold and you're starting to see the evidence thereof. I can only imagine realizing that the pain that my family went through when I was in sin, knowing that they had planted that seed when I was young. I can only imagine the pain that they went through. But in the end, everything that I went through, everything that they went through, it was worth it because I'm still standing here, and I'm standing here today in God. The devil didn't kill me through prayers and everything that was going on. The Lord chose to save my life, and He chose to save me, and He protected me many, 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 many times. I should have been dead according to the things that was going on in the world a long time ago when I was in sin. But God protected me because they had planted that seed and had dedicated me to the Lord. And I truly believe that the Lord is going to protect and to draw in. I believe that He holds good to His word. Spiritually, whether God knows one birth or many will give you what you need to make it across the finish line, He's going to give you what you need. It's up to us to take hold of it and run with it, per se. It's up to us to be obedient, but He will give us what we need. That's where the option, the free will comes in, whether we choose to use it or to throw it away. But He's going to always give us exactly what we need to make it across the finish line. And this is according to His personalized expected end for our lives. 1 Corinthians 3:7. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase. Now, I didn't read anything about Satan having no power. Satan doesn't have any power, really, only God. So by no means let Satan steal the expected end for you. Don't let him make you commit spiritual abortion. If we're pregnant with things, and if we don't stay obedient, and we don't keep growing, and we don't keep seeking God, and we let the devil distract us and pull us out, the devil can make us commit spiritual abortion. If you're in a place in your life and he pulls you out back into sin, you've committed spiritual abortion at that point. Anything that was in your spiritual life that you hadn't given birth to at that point is gone when you go back to sin. So I want to be able to, and we don't even have to completely backslide for that to happen. If we just don't be obedient, it can happen. You think about the parable of the 10 talents. He gave the one, and when he hid it, he took it from him and gave it to the one that had the 10. So, we don't completely even truly have to backslide. If He gives us something and we don't use it, He can take it. And I don't want the Lord to take anything from me. I always want to be receiving of the blessings of the Lord. 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 4 through 7. Great is my boldness of speech toward you. Great is my glorying of you. I am filled with comfort. I am exceeding joyful in all our tribulation. For when we were come into Macedonia, our flesh had no rest, but we were troubled on every side. Without were fightings, within were fears. Nevertheless God, that comforted those that are cast down, comforted us by the coming of Titus, and not by his coming only, but by the consolation wherewith he was comforted in you, when he told us your earnest desire, your mourning, your fervent mind toward me, so that I rejoiced the more. Now God, God sent Titus to Paul to send the word of deliverance to Paul. And right here when he's talking about that, in verse 5, for when we were coming to Macedonia, our flesh had no rest, but we were troubled on every side. Without fightings, within were fears. So he's in a spiritual battle, God sent Titus to Paul to send the word of deliverance to Paul. And when Jesus was here, when he came to earth, he was anointed to preach deliverance. And once we receive Christ, we receive everything that is of Christ. So as a minister, or when God, you might not be a preacher, but God might speak to you and say, I need you to go say this to this person, or I need you to shake this person's hand. If we're not being obedient, then we might be preventing the deliverance in that person's life, because once we receive Christ, we receive everything he is. He was anointed to preach deliverance and to give deliverance. When he healed the sick, it was a healing of deliverance from that disease. Anything that God done was always about deliverance. So I want to be obedient and receive the deliverance in my life that he has expected for me. It's important for us to always do and to always preach, to always be about the Father's business and exactly in the way that he gives it to us, not to add to or take away. It's always important that we stand 100% firm in what it is. Paul said, I am exceedingly joyful in all our tribulation. When you think about that idea of what he's saying, that was deliverance. To be joyful during the tribulation was deliverance for him. Deliverance comes to people in different ways, but that was deliverance to him. If we're joyful during our tribulation, then once we come through that, God's going to exceedingly bless and run your cup over, because you kept the faith and you kept going and you didn't let the devil back you down with the tribulation or the trial that you were in. To keep our joy is I think, I've heard my grandmother say it many, many times, talk about joy, and, she's always on that subject with me. So it made me attend to, when I was started to read and started to study, I would notice how many scriptures had joy in them, and would realize how important it was that God wanted us to keep it. God wants us to keep our joy, and he wants us to be happy. He wants us to be fulfilled in our lives. He wants us to be doing what he has called us to do. Trials and tribulations and temptations is like our spiritual labor pains. We got to go through them. God's not going to deliver us out of every single last one of them. He can deliver you through them, but he won't stop all of them from coming, because it's the way that we grow. So, trials and tribulation and temptation is our spiritual labor pains. When God sent Titus to Paul, he sent him with the epidural, the pain relief. He sent him with the word of encouragement, the word of confirmation. This is what you need to be doing. John chapter 5, verse 25-26. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice, the Son of God, and they that hear shall live. For as the Father hath life in himself, so hath he given to the Son to have life in himself. When I read this, I'm looking at this as, this is the confirmation of the pregnancy, because he has life in himself. So when we receive him, we also receive that life that was in him. So that's the confirmation of the pregnancy. John 5, verse 29, and shall come forth they that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. That is the confirmation of either you're going to give birth, you're going to give life, or you're going to commit abortion. You know, if you've done evil and then resurrection of damnation, then you have committed abortion for any plan that God had ever had set out for your life. So, what's our heart's desires? What do we desire to truly do for God? What seed do we want to give birth to? What do we want to grow in our lives? There's non-spiritual gifts and probably many more that's, unseen yet. But there's none that we specifically know of. Are we desiring to give birth to something new? Are we truly desiring to grow? Let's resurrect our lives. Let's give life back to our life, and by no means abort our life. John 14:12. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father. So I feel like, what the Lord was showing me with this is that we are pregnant with those greater works. Those greater works, the great works that he already did, and the greater works that we have not yet seen. So let's pay attention to what we're doing and how we're living and the things that we're doing in God and how that we're growing in our study lives and prayer lives. And let's give birth to the greater works that God has set forth. I want to see everyone, working in the gifts and moving in the Holy Ghost. So let's do that. Let's give birth to those.